In this story, who do you see as Christ? It's sort of an Old Testament story that's a parable. And you have 15 seconds to answer. A, B, C, D, or E. And you have about 5 seconds left. Now, this time only 83 of you voted because you didn't want to be wrong, right? So some of you didn't vote. Well, here's what you said. Deborah, that most of you picked that one, 52% of you picked Deborah. And that could be a good choice. Actually, the word judges in Hebrew means deliverer. So Deborah was a deliverer, and certainly Christ was a deliverer. Then there was Jabin, the king, and only 3 of you answered that way, and I don't personally see that. But then 16 of you said Sisera, and then Yael. We had 20% of you pick that one, and then Barak, just about 5% of you picked that one. Well, you could make a case for Sisera, because didn't Christ become sin on our behalf? The book of Corinthians tells us that Christ became sin for us. So here Christ is the evil one and is destroyed, is killed, and through that death the people are delivered. That could possibly be an answer, a good answer. And then there's Yael, and she's the one who actually, puts the nail in through the temple. So Sisera actually got nailed, just as Christ got nailed to the cross. But Yael, she was the one who killed the enemy as Christ killed Satan on the cross. That's a good choice. But then there's Barak, the general who went off to war, and he might also be a good choice. So I'm suggesting that there could be many different answers here, but I like the answer of Barak as Jesus Christ. What we find is that he was willing to do God's will. He was willing to leave home. He was willing to fight for the right. He was willing to risk his life, and he was willing not to get the credit. What we actually see here is that just about every commentary, every Bible dictionary, if you look up Barak, they'll say he was the coward who wouldn't go into battle without a woman. He was a wimp. That's not at all what the Bible says. What the Bible says is that Deborah tells him, you need to go into battle. And he says, okay, I'll do it, but I want you to come with me. And in fact, what we see is that he believed in Deborah. He believed Deborah was a prophet. He believed in her vision that she was given. Barak believed in God. He believed strongly in God. And so he said, okay, I want God to go with me. I want this woman to go with me into battle. Not a wimp, not afraid. He has faith. And then he's also okay with not getting the credit. She says, yeah, I'll go with you. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you something. You're not going to get credit for this. He says, it doesn't matter. I'll go anyway. What an outstanding man. He says, it doesn't matter who gets the credit. I'll go anyway. And isn't that kind of neat to have people with that attitude in the church? I see it around here all the time. I'm up front a lot. I'm the pastor, and I'm up front giving sermons and sort of in the limelight, so to speak. But how many of you are here early, setting things up? How many of you are, taking care of the children's classes? Or how many of you are setting up chairs or tables? And you're never in the spotlight. You don't care who gets the credit because your heart is with God. And I'd like to suggest today that those are the real champions. Those are the ones that really matter. You guys come and think that, we have great music here, and the musicians do such a good job, and the singers, but you got to realize that just doesn't happen. They come and they practice, and they work all week on it, and then they come and they practice. They're here early, and they do the thing, and then we come and we hear all this great music. They're the ones who should get the credit. But they have the attitude, I don't care who gets the credit. We're just going to do God's will. Now, here's why I think it might be Barak. This is from the book of Hebrews. It's chapter 11, and this is the faith chapter, the Hall of Fame chapter on faith. And the writer of the book of Hebrews says, well, how much more do I need to say? It would take too long to recount the stories of the faith of Gideon and Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, and all the prophets. So in this whole story about Deborah, Barak is the only one that's mentioned in the faith chapter in the Hall of Fame of Faith. I think that's kind of neat. That here's someone back in the Old Testament who says, I don't care if I get credit or not. And then in the New Testament, oh, by the way, you're in the Hall of Fame.